Hello and welcome to the latest from Hearts Standard. My name is Joel Sked and I am joined by my colleague James Kearney. How's it going, James?
Yeah, very well, thanks. Very well. How are you getting on?
Yeah, good, thanks. Good. I am. Apologies to those if there's anyone waiting for us to start. It's 4:45 on the dot. We were slightly late because I was walking a dog, so I just got back late. Just these things happen. So we were jumping on to the plan is to talk about the January transfer window. Obviously, last week was more about the Livingston, so looking ahead to the Livingston game, looking after the Livingston game, and then looking kind of back at the season as a whole. We were a week into the January transfer window, so I thought it may be worthwhile just getting together and kind of looking at the state of play just now, kind of what we expect to happen. So I suppose, where shall I start? I sent you a message with all the stuff we're going to discuss, and we'll start by talking about Lawrence Shankland, because we've not talked about him enough. I don't feel. But you put a piece on the website today, really good piece, looking at why Hearts cannot really afford to sell him, and it was good to see some of the reaction. Just kind of like it painted the picture for people outside of Hearts or not a Hearts fan, where they go, okay, these are the reasons why Hearts would be so reluctant to sell him, and these are the reasons why he would cost so much. Whereas I would imagine there's Rangers fans out there or other pundits thinking, oh, Rangers could probably get him for about 3 million.
Yeah, that's the thing. You hear people saying that, whether they pundits or people on Twitter or whoever it might be, and you just kind of go, "What are you talking about, man? Like that's nowhere near what you're going to need." Yeah. So as you say, I mean, it's stuff we've touched on before, but things like the amount of money that Hearts are getting from just being in Europe if they finish third, provided that Celtic or Rangers win the cup, or Hearts indeed. In that case, well, yeah, that's a lot of money. That's the starting point of negotiations. I think it was about £5 million thereabouts that the club made from the run in Europe last season. It was a lot of money. And then that's before you even factor in just how important and how good Shankland is. The fact that he's outscored everyone in Scotland since he's been here. He's on track to become the first Hearts player since Robertson to get 20 goals in back-to-back seasons. He's on track to become the fastest player to hit 50 goals for Hearts since the Second World War. I mean, and it's something I kind of touched on in a piece, but nowadays when you speak to Hearts fans about him, he's getting spoke about in the same vein as people like Scatcho and even Robertson. And okay, obviously they've got the longevity thing, particularly Robertson. Obviously he's done it over a longer period, but that's the level of performance that Hearts fans have been seeing from Shankland now for a long time, and that's the context to which this whole situation has to be seen within. The fact that this isn't just a good player who's you've got 18 months left in his deal and maybe you can get him for a few million. Like, no, this season's the one opportunity where you can get guaranteed cash in the bank for finishing third, like some serious money. It's the the last chance we're going to have for a while. And also Shankland is a once in a generation Hearts player. You need to set your bids accordingly. And I'm sorry, £3 million is just a joke.
I think it's a big thing is the optics as well about Hearts won't want to kind of be seen to be selling a player on the cheap. Someone's so important. Yeah. I think it was probably send out a bad message. But also the thing about Shankland is the more we've been thinking about it, and you see people saying, "Oh, wouldn't pay him for his age. He has no resale value." But at the same time, it's like you're not with. Are you selling Shankland to then sell him on again? You're not. You're buying Shankland to guarantee you goals, and that's what he does. It's not like he's going, oh no, his pace is going to drop off when he's 33, 34. He doesn't rely on his pace. I think he's only going to get better, more intelligent. He'll probably kind of switch a role. We can play as a number 10. So I don't subscribe to that feeling that kind of that. The line of thinking where you think, oh no, you wouldn't want to pay.
I would say though is sorry to cut in, but just to quickly say, like there are some clubs though where that will be a factor. I mean, the big one I'm thinking about is someone like Celtic, where they might well be interested. They're one of the clubs that have been linked with Shankland, but are they honestly going to spend 5, 6, 7 million pounds on a player who they're not going to get any money back on? That's not what they do.
Yeah,
very rare. Okay, there's the odd example here and there. Guys like maybe someone like Christopher Julian, even though I'm sure they're hoping to make something back. But, they don't spend that kind of money on any player really, and particularly not ones where it's guys who, they're not going to flip for 10, 15, 20 million in a few years' time.
Yeah, I completely understand that. I'm really not trying. I really don't want them trying to sell him or push to sell him or want to see him go. But you think that you sign him. For example, if you're Rangers Celtic, you're pretty much guaranteeing yourself 30 goals a season for the length of his contract. Hopefully he stays at Hearts and continues to score goals. My prediction, there's no inside knowledge here. This is just a gut feeling that he will extend his deal and get a deserved pay rise and then have a reasonable sell-on clause. But that's just a gut feeling. That's not really based on anything. But that's my prediction for it.
Yeah, no, I mean, for what it's worth, I don't think he will go in January just because, as I kind of pointed out in my piece, like the Hearts board are in a real position of power here. They hold all the cards here. There's no incentive to sell. There's no reason to sell. They've got every reason not to. So, they're in a position of real strength. In the summer, whether he signs an extension or not, that's not going to be the case anymore. All of a sudden, he's going to have 12 months left in his deal if he sticks about. And then, obviously, at that point, he probably does end up moving on for a substantially smaller fee. But as we've touched on, like it's worth it. You don't have to have an economics degree to see that. If you keep that guy and finish third, that's worth the 5-6 million, whatever it is. So, yeah, I think that. I wouldn't be surprised though. I think you're right. I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up signing an extension, but with a release fee in it that then somebody in the summer maybe comes in for him. But that'd be far less disruptive than losing him mid-season. Anyway, I think as every Hearts fan knows, if Shankland goes, so does third. Let's be honest.
It's. I mean, it's realistically the third would be difficult, which is I think even just like the mentality, the knock on, like whether it's a squad or the fans as a whole, because you never know, Hearts could turn around and bring someone in, and they could hit the ground running, or Liam Boyce could come back and take on the mantle as number 9. But again, he's not. During his Hearts career, he's not been nearly as reliable in front of goal as Lawrence Shankland's. But there's a
lot of if buts and maybes in there.
Yes, you took the words right out my mouth. Rangers can do one regards Shankland, as if they were to sign a foreign player as good as him, they would need to pay around £12 million, says Paul Wilson. And again, I think that's a good point in that there's all kind of been a snobbery around Rangers Celtic signing players from Scotland, and I think that probably that filters down. That filters down through Scottish football. So, I think that Paul makes a very good point. We'll move on.
To remind everyone as well that Celtic spent, was it £3.5 million on Albion Ajeti?
Yes, yeah.
Well, there you go.
I mean, I've got a list of signings made by clubs this summer, and you look at some of the fees that Celtic paid. So Mike Nawrocki, £4 million, Gustav Lagerbielke, £3 million, Odin Thiago Holm, a young Norwegian guy, £2.5 million, Yang Hyun Yun, £2 million, and then Rangers, I mean, Danilo, $5 million, has been all right. Cyril Dessers, $4 million. Sam Lammers, $4 million. So, yeah, be realistic, guys. Shankland is, if you look at some of the fees they paid there, Shankland may be worth it all in all of them put together. We'll move on to talk about, we've spoken enough about Shankland, so we'll move on to, I've seen a few comments. Let's talk about Yan Dhanda. Obviously, Barry Anderson reported, I think it was on Sunday evening, that Hearts were looking at a possible deal for Yan Dhanda, which makes you think they are looking for a deal for Yan Dhanda. It's something that I think a lot of Hearts fans probably agree with. There's a lot of talk about him after the Ross County game. Scored a stunning free kick. He's a very good player. He's out of contract at the end of the season in Ross County. He is, when you look at the players who have got 6 months left in their deal in the Premiership, he's definitely one that stands out, and you go, yeah, that's the type of player that Hearts should be targeting, because we've talked about it before. Someone mentioned, I think it was Drew Cowan, Armstrong for Kilmarnock. The thing about Armstrong from Kilmarnock is that he's under contract, and like Hearts with Shankland, Kilmarnock will drive a very hard bargain, especially for teams in the league. And Joe Savage said at the AGM that Kelly would be looking for 7 figures. I think there was interest in him in the summer from European teams, and it was a decent 6-figure fee. As soon as you add in his form this season and Hearts coming in front, you're looking 7 figures. So he's probably a wee bit unrealistic. Whereas where I think Hearts can do good business is by looking at players who are in the final 6 years of their 6 months of their deal in Scotland and looking at a pre-contract agreement.
No, exactly. I mean, looking at Dhanda, I think it's no massive surprise. I think that he ticks a lot of boxes. I think it's a move that suits everyone, and I think particularly the fact it's a pre-contract agreement makes a lot of sense as well. Like you say, there are other areas of the squad that are in more kind of urgent need of bodies in, particularly right wing back. You know, maybe another striker. Right now, there are 2 playmakers in the squad, Alex Lowry and George Grant, to fill one position, and both actually doing a pretty good job. And you compare them to the rest of the other creative players in the league, they are statistically really quite good. Okay, yes, they can be inconsistent. They absolutely can, but particularly with Lowry's case, some games he's brilliant, some games he's just miles off it. But you know, that hole in the squad is already filled, and it's going to be filled till the end of the season. And it's only at the end of the season when obviously Lowry's almost certainly back to Rangers permanently, and then Grant might well leave. You know, we know that last summer he came close to leaving. He might well want. He's still got another year in his contract, but you know, he might well want a new challenge. It wouldn't be a huge surprise. So yeah, there's a position that they're going to need reinforcements in the summer, and I think that Dhanda just fits the bill perfectly. I was looking into some of his stats earlier on because I'm a nerd and that's what I want to do.
And you're writing a piece for tomorrow. And I'm
writing a piece for tomorrow as well. Yeah. But you know, when you look at things like his expected assists, so that's kind of like it measures how good a chance is, even if it doesn't go in the back of the net. So he's got the 4th highest expected assists per 90 of any player in the league. The only players ahead of him are Lewis Palma, Danny Armstrong, that man again, and David Turnbull. That's
good company. That's very good company.
No, yeah, he's doing very well. You know, in terms of things like his key passes per game, he's got the 6th highest rate again of any player in the league. Again, this is playing for a Ross County team that are not good. And they have been struggling, and you know he's been doing it consistently over the last year and a half since he first pitched up in Dingwall. And then even things like his deep progressions, which are successful passes or dribbles into the final third. As we know, that's something that Hearts have been crying out for at times. You know, someone who can carry the ball forward or pass the ball forward and you really try and break the lines. Again, he's one of the best performing players in the league in that regard. There's only 5 players in the entire league who don't play for the Old Firm who are doing it more. So again, just all these things just show us, yeah, he ticks a lot of boxes. He makes a lot of sense, but there's also no need to rush and do it just now. You know, yes, you could maybe pay some money and get the deal done in January, but then you've got 3 players vying for one spot. It's probably a bit excessive, and then also it's probably just a waste of money as well when you think that there are other areas of the squad where, again, that money could be better spent. And you know, like a right wing back, for instance, you'd like to think it suits them. So I think it suits Dhanda in that he gets his move. I think it suits Naismith in that he addresses the problem in the squad and also takes a deficiency out of his team, the fact that they aren't creative enough in midfield. It suits the Hearts board because they don't have to spend much cash. It suits Ross County as well because they get to hold on to a key player until the end of the season. So yeah, I mean, for what, you know, traditionally this time of year tends to be a silly season for in football, but this is a remarkably sensible move for everyone involved. And yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so a couple of things on that is like the really encouraging stats, and that's he's those stats reflect better than him than the season he was having. But I do know he's an excellent player. I think Ian Lobbin probably says it best. Like Forrest last season, it's an entirely risk-free signing. This is a guy who's been in the league. He knows the league. He's proven himself at a kind of lesser club. And then like I say, free used to league and fills the gap we need filled. So yeah, he ticks plenty of boxes. Seen the Daily Record reporting that, not unsurprisingly, that Ross County don't want to leave him, let him go in January. Again, they'll be looking. I'm just trying bringing up the league just now. They're sitting 11th. They're 6 points ahead of Livingston, and they've got 2 games in hand over Livingston. So they'll be thinking relatively comfortable away from the bottom place, but they don't want to go through that Premiership playoff again. So they would just be wanting to keep their best players to ensure their safety in the Premiership next season. So I do think it could be quite difficult to get them away. Wouldn't be the worst thing coming in, because you talked about Grant and Lowry. Hearts may be looking to replace Barry Mackay, who's been he's been out for 2 months. But I do think, I agree with you, that there's probably other areas of the team that are a bigger priority than that centre midfielder. In Yan Dhanda, the thing I like about Dhanda is that his versatility, is that he can, as we saw recently, that he kind of played in kind of a wide role, but was more central. He's played as a number 10. I think at County he's played as a number 8 as well. So he kind of fits into different midfield roles. To
an extent, but he's also definitely best at number 10. And
absolutely.
It was crazy when he was getting played at like the base of midfield and stuff like that. That's just what he doing. Like, they played like Shankland at right back or something. It's like, what? Oh God, that did happen though in Belgium, didn't it?
Yeah, he played right wing back.
Oh God, geez, what a world.
I know, what a world. So I do think it makes it, like, again, what Ian said, it makes so much sense. And the good thing is that it's not like sign him on a P contract. It's like, oh God, we really, really need to get him into the team now. Like you said, there's players there. I think what will depend on is how long Barry Mackay's out for, and then Grant as well, because he's had these injury issues as well. So if these guys are going to miss a chunk of the second half of the season, then it becomes a bit more of a bit more for importance. But yeah, it's one of those where you see it reported and think, yeah, that just makes a lot of sense. And even before coming into January, you're looking around and thinking, yeah, that just naturally, when you are watching Hearts and you pay attention to the other team, and he's someone that always seems to stick out.
It was a good time for his audition as well, isn't it? To turn up at Tynecastle,
yes,
for the transfer window opens and play an absolute blinder. Like, yeah, that'll get you far,
We'll move on to the right back position. As Scott says here, the right back position is an interesting one. Is Atkinson fully in the plans going forward as our main man at right back, and therefore is right back signing going to be a backup in the fire vein, or do we go big? That's actually a really, really interesting question, because Atkinson, he was out of the plans under Nielsen towards the end of Nielsen's reign, and then as soon as Naismith came in, he was back in his plans. And I do think we've seen some of Atkinson's best football since arriving at Tynecastle, played under Naismith. I think he's came back from injury and he's looked really good. He's had a couple of iffy games or iffy moments within games, but by and large he's been pretty good. And I think you've liked what you saw from him so far.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Like you say, I think particularly when he came back from the injury at the start of December, and obviously playing through that very hectic and demanding fixture list, I thought he played well in most games. Not, like you say, not all games. I think there was maybe 1 or 2 games he could have done a bit better, but on the whole, he's been excellent. And there's a reason why he's played almost every game there this season whenever he's been fit. It's because he's the best option there. Like we touched on it plenty of times before, but Alan Forrest, probably too much of a defender to be a wing back. Toby Civic, too much of a defender to be a wing back. Alan Forrest, too much of an attacker to be a wing back. Atkinson's just right in that sweet spot. So I think that's what. But obviously with him away at the Asian Cup, obviously he could get injured again. With Fires away, Hearts, that has to be the top priority. I believe it is.
So again, to provide a bit more context on the question as well, because in terms of is Atkinson the main man going forward, I think there's 2 elements to this. Is that Naismith talked about how as soon as Atkinson, it was after the Celtic game, and we changed from having a back 4 to then going to a back 3. I just don't think he saw an option other than Atkinson that was reliable enough at right back, with a fire going back to Brighton. Civic's played there, but again, it's not his position. He's either a centre back or a centre mid. You've seen he's not suited to a right wing back. So I think Atkinson will be seen going forward as important member of the squad, but maybe not first team regular. I think it will depend on the formation. I think if you're playing a back 5 with a wing back, or back 3 with wing backs, I think Atkinson suits that more. I think Hearts may look to bring in someone who's more of a right back and maybe more defensively minded, because then that would allow Naismith to play with a back 4, because we've seen even before Atkinson's injury in the back four, I thought at times we were pretty easy to get at, and we saw in a few games where they don't look as solid as we did in the back three. So that's why I think you might see someone who's more of a right back than a wing back come in.
Yeah, I would think so. Like you say, I think that does make a lot more sense. And again, in the games where Hearts are going to have lots of the ball, we've seen Alan Forrest do a pretty good job there. Again, like I said earlier, there's definitely question marks over what he can do defensively. But if you're playing like a Levy or a St Johnstone at home, and you're going to have 70% possession, having someone like that who can slot in, there's a really good option to have. So yeah, I think you're right. It probably will be someone a little bit more defensively minded. As to who that might be, I mean, there's a couple of options, I think. There's one that there's certainly one guy in particular I can think of that I think would do the job brilliantly, but I'm wary of saying his name because he plays for my beloved Partick Thistle.
Yes, it's I believe you've got a big soft spot for Jack McMillan.
I do indeed, yes, like most Partick Thistle fans. For Hearts fans might remember him. He used to play at Livingston for a couple of seasons, and he joined Thistle at the start of last season. He really came onto a game during the playoffs run, as many of the players did, but he's just, I think he's an absolutely fantastic player, and I think that chances are next season he's going to be playing Premiership football one way or the other because his contract's up at the end of the season. I would be amazed if there aren't Premiership clubs sniffing about, and I just think he fits the bill for what's needed at Hearts. I think defensively he's solid enough, and then going forward as well, that's been one of the sort of main kind of attacking weapons in Thistle's arsenal has been Jack McMillan's underlapping runs up the right hand side, because basically what happens is Stevie Lawless, who's a technical player, can get on the ball, can hold on to it, he moves out to the right, he keeps a hold of it, draws the man, McMillan bombs beyond him, gets slid in, and then more often than not scores or assists. So he's a right back by trade. This season he's got 2 goals and 3 assists, and last season he ended up with 5 goals and 10 assists.
Yeah, last season it took me by surprise, because I just thought he was an average right back who was either an average right back who was one of those who could flip between Championship and lower Premiership, like bottom 6 Premiership, and then he just in the second half of the last season seemed to turn into James Tavernier off the Championship.
Yeah, like he's just been like you say. I think he had a relatively. I think when they signed, people are kind of like, "All right, yeah, that's a good signing, fine. That for a Championship level team, that's a good signing." And then he just doesn't really put a foot wrong. He's been doing it for a long time now. That's a year and a half where he's barely missed a game. He's basically plays every minute of every game, and he's consistently that really good threat. So again, like you say, he's definitely more suited to playing in a back 4. He has played in a back 5 previously, but as that kind of right back in a back 4, he links up really well with the wingers. Someone like, for instance, Yataro Oda could definitely benefit from having like someone like McMillan bombing on beyond him. So while part of me hopes, I hope it doesn't happen, but certainly if it was announced by Hearts that they've managed to get a hold of him, Hearts fans could be very pleased about that one for sure.
We'll wait and see, but yeah, I think this. I don't think he'll turn up at Hearts, but you never know. My prediction is he's Derek McKinnon signs for Kilmarnock next summer.
Maybe that's a good shout.
Yeah, he strikes me as a very McKinnon signing. Just on right backs, Jamie Flatman asked, any promising right backs from the B team that might fill the right back void while the Asian Cup is on? So Adam Forrester is the one that's got a lot of attention in the B team. Played in the 12-0 win over Edinburgh University on Friday night. I was there, but it was hard to. It's hard to kind of judge a player and his potential when the other team are so poor and flattening on the team 12-0. But he was on the bench for the Viaplay Cup semi-final, so he's there and thereabouts. I don't think he'll fill the void while the Asian Cup's on. I think it's very much a player will be brought in. If it's not for the Spartans game, then you would imagine the Dundee or Aberdeen game that there'll be a signing made. So while he is highly rated, I don't think he is in the kind of plans to make that step up just yet in the way that Aidan Denham has, or Macaulay Tate has, or Finlay Pollock. Now he's come back. So, but I think he's definitely one to keep an eye on. Sticking with the B team, Makenzie Kirk has left to join Hamilton Accies on loan. We understand that he will sign a contract extension. That's what not been announced by Hearts, but his contract runs out at the end of the season. I think it's a big move for him because he's taken the Lowland League by storm. I think it was 26 goals, 27 if you include his one in the SPFL Trust Trophy. I think the step up's needed. It's almost like he's completed the Lowland League with his performances over this season. The last season he had a good record as well. I still think he was a wee bit away from the first team at Hearts. Having watched him, I think he's the Lowland League to the third best team in the Premiership was always going to be a big jump.
Yeah,
I just think physically, I think there's areas to work on, and his kind of all round play, I still think there's areas to develop. The main thing is that this is a guy who gets in very good areas. He's a goal scorer. The amount of goals he has scored from within this. Between the posts and between 8 and 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 yards out is incredible, which is a great quality to have. That's not something you need to develop, but you can develop the rest of the game. Accies, I think, is it's an ideal jumping point because you're looking at halfway between the Lowland League and the Premiership, and he's working with John Rankin, who he worked with previously at Hearts, and you're also going in a team who do create a lot of chances, but again, you will learn that other side of the game.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think that, like you say, it's probably that other side of the game that's probably more important for a player like Kirk at that, who, he's played Lowland League football. Okay, yeah, you're playing against men there, but there's still a bit of a gulf. I would maybe not a gulf, but there is a difference between League One and the Lowland
fitness,
League.
physicality, absolutely.
Yeah, there's a massive difference. So yeah, like you say, I think it's a good loan for him. I think it's a good level. And like you say, he's likely to get game time there as well, which is important. He's working with a coach that knows him as well. That can only help. And it'll just be fascinating to see how he gets on, because you'd like to think if he does well between now and the end of the season, that then maybe goes, okay, maybe next season he gets a loan stint at the Championship, or if he does really well, maybe a team at the bottom end of the Premiership, or if he does fantastically well, maybe you promote him into the senior squad. So I think it makes a lot of sense. And I would just like to officially apologise to Makenzie Kirk, who I'm sure he's a regular listener. I'm sure he doesn't miss an episode. Just because I always thought his name had a C in it at the start. I've been misspelling it for the last couple of months.
It's
absolutely terrible.
I've clocked it, and I meant to mention to you, but I don't want to out you on the show.
Oh, right, I've just publicly disgraced myself for no reason.
Yeah, you probably disgrace yourself rather than me doing it, so that makes me feel a lot better. But yeah, it's the C threw me for a while. Also, the lack of C threw me for a while. I think there's also the knock-on effect of Kirk's move to Hamilton will be James Wilson, the highly rated teenager who was wanted by clubs down south. Hearts got him on an extended deal. He was on the bench for the Livingston game. He's a striker. So with Kirk going, he's now step up to the B team and probably be the main striker, and it opens up that pathway for him to take on more responsibility, have a wee bit more pressure, play at a higher level on a consistent basis as a starter. And he got off to a great start, and he filled the Makenzie Kirk role very, very well, because he got a hat-trick against Edinburgh University. Could have had more. He skied one in the second half, but he scored a couple of goals that are very Kirk-like, being a kind of predatory striker in the 6-yard box, but also a couple of really tidy finishes, and was getting involved. So that's, I think, what Hearts want to have, is that if one player kind of moves up or goes on loan, that they've got another player coming from the 18s or in the background who can then step up. So it's encouraging on that aspect. Finally, we will talk about the only other thing that's really been happening is Andy Halliday was linked with a move to Livingston. nothing's really progressed on that from what I can see. But I don't think it's any surprise that Andy Halliday was linked with a move away.
No. I mean, has he played this season?
He has played, but he's not played. I can't. I'm just trying to work out when the last time he was. He did.
It's certainly been a few months anyway.
Yeah.
It's been a good wee while. So yeah, he's not played. He doesn't appear to be in Naismith's plans. Livingston are desperate for players. Obviously, he's got that connection with Livingston, having come through there as a youth player as well back in the day. So yeah, makes sense. I think if Hearts can offload him, it would seem to be prudent to do so. Just saves up a bit, frees up a bit of money in the wage bill, gets a guy who's not playing out the building. You know, it's good for him, good for Naismith, good for the team. Yeah, not surprising at all. To be honest, the only surprise would be if come February 1st, if he's still at Tynecastle, that would be a surprise. But apart from that, yeah, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Halliday's an interesting one in that. Do I think he could have contributed this season by in some games with his qualities? Yeah, but I think so. I probably think he was a good option at times. The big one was the Hibs game, obviously coming on at left back. I think he has proven over his time at Tynecastle that he's a reliable player. He's a trustworthy player, and you kind of, like I said, you'd rely on him to do a job or any job. Then his versatility, but I mean, it's one of those where he'll want to play. He'll want to go somewhere where he can put himself in the shop window because his contract's up at the end of the summer. And for Hearts, they move on. Barely even a squad player, kind of fringe player that opens up the gap, opens up space for the likes of Macaulay Tate and Finlay Pollock or others to be involved more in the first team and potentially get more opportunities. So yeah, it does seem to make a lot of sense. I think that is obviously not obviously, but yesterday Hearts B announced the signing of a Canadian midfielder, Lennon Thompson. The surnames of two ex-Celtic players that like that. That's what caught my eye about it. But it does seem like it's maybe one for the future in that he had a short trial with Hearts and now the 19-year-old is on a deal until the end of the season. One that could obviously a potential opportunity for him to sign or get a longer deal in the future. But other than that, that is what has been happening regarding Hearts and the January transfer window. We will probably be back next week with another. We'll probably do this on a weekly basis, kind of looking at Hearts in the January transfer window, unless the right back progresses or someone leaves or someone comes in. So until Wednesday, when we might hand out some awards of the first half of the season, have a wee bit of fun with that. We will see you then. Be sure to check out heartstandard.co.uk with a lot of content gone up last week and content going up this week, including, so you've got James Kearney on Lawrence Shankland and why Hearts cannot afford to sell him, and then a piece on looking at what Yan Dhanda would bring to Hearts going up tomorrow. And I've got an interview with Stephen Naismith about the academy, which should go up on Wednesday. He is talking about the pathway from the 18s, the B team, into the first team, and kind of looking at stuff that maybe Hearts have got wrong in the past and things that he's looking to implement. So there will be plenty of stuff to get your teeth into until Wednesday when we will do another video. Thank you very much and goodbye.